Hey gang, Will here from the Ashland Fly Shop with our Airflo Echo rep, Troy Lichtenegger, and we are talking today about the Airflo Skagit Scout
Yes,
head
we are.
a little bit. We put them on a whole bunch of rods today, and they've just really been awesome on all of them.
We've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We went from 150 grains all the way up to 540 grains, and I'd say they've been pretty fun on every single one that we casted today.
No doubt.
Yeah,
No doubt.
They are fun. They are a fun series of line.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've been talking a bit about how I feel they're a little bit overlooked out there, but they really start at that low end range, that kind of single hand range like we have here, to 180 grain on a 5-weight rod, and
Yep.
they really jump up. Is there anything we need to know about the sizes and how they fit? Like, do you need to add like on some of the small heads, you need to add like the way of the tip in or anything like that? Are they pretty much good to go?
Yeah, no, there's a couple tips and tricks that definitely help. You don't necessarily want to overline your rod with such a short head.
Okay.
So you start maybe on the lower, or kind of right in the sweet spot where you would typically have a Skagit head. So like on a 7-weight, you would affiliate a 510 grain Skagit head to a 7-weight. So typically a 480 or 510 is right in the wheelhouse.
Gotcha.
So usually right in that sweet spot, or maybe a step below even. Just depends on the size of the fly and the size of the sink tip that you're going to be throwing on that rod.
Cool.
Yeah, and then one thing that I've noticed at a lot of events that we host, where people try these lines out, and one of the tips I would say is run a longer sink tip.
Yeah.
And what that does, so when you have a 12.5-foot rod or 11-foot or 13-foot rod, you have so much lift off the water. And what happens is that sink tip, when you lift, these lines come in from 13.5 feet all the way to 18.5 feet.
Okay.
So when you're 13 feet up in the air, you only got about 3 feet of line on the water.
Right.
So I typically run about a 12-foot sink tip. And you can run anything from a T7 all the way to a T14, and they cast really well. There's a lot of mass behind these little lines. So running a longer tip sustains the anchor in the water, and it allows it to form that nice D-loop and transfer all that energy out to the river.
Yeah, I agree. I think on some of the little bit longer rods we've cast today, we've been making a little bit of adjustment, casting longer tips and stuff. But I do feel that the sweet spot seems to be on those kind of 12.5, 12, 11.5 foot, so trout spay, switch rods. I mean, man, it's just like game on in there, huh?
I would say the Scout is definitely at home at anything 10 foot to about 12.5 feet.
Yeah.
You can do it with longer rods, but you just have to remember longer sink tips and slow that cast way down, because you're lifting everything essentially out of the water. But yeah, anything in that 10 to 12.5 foot range is just the sweet spot.
Of which we're seeing a lot of rods, show up in that range, right? Like the Echo Compact Spay.
It's a great coastal setup. I mean, you don't need that big long rod anymore to access, 3/4 of the way across the river.
True, true. Yeah, and these things just fly. A lot of times on short heads, I've always equated it to kind of like throwing a rock, like they're just kind of pitching it out there. But man, these things got flight time. They really scoot out there.
Yeah, and in the videos that we were shooting earlier, you could really see the back end really form that loop and just carry that nice consistency all the way across until you run out of running line.
Yeah.
And then it's just a boom. It wants to pull it out of your hand. So,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, Troy. Thanks so much for giving us a little more insight into these heads. The Airflo Skagit Scout. If you're a two-hander fanatic or exploring single-hand Skagit, really encourage you to give one of these heads a try. The Airflo Skagit Scout from Airflo.
Woo!